Oh, are we good? I got a thumbs up. Hello, everybody. Hey, it's Mike Myers. Welcome to the June Drupal NYC Meetup. There is still pizza in the back. There are still beverages, so make sure you get some of those. My name is Alex Ross. Some of you may recognize my face. I used to MC this thing, and then I had to take a short break for the last few months, but I'm back now, so yay! I'm back, yay! All right, we're going to get started. A couple housekeeping things. First, please mute your devices. Anything that goes beep and sings a song, please make sure it's on mute so as not to disturb the evening. If you're going to be asking questions throughout the evening, people will be walking around with mics. So if you have questions, please make sure that you use one of the mics so that everyone in the room can hear you. And for other reasons as well, which we will get to shortly. Other housekeeping, there are restrooms. There is a women's room, middle of the stage left hallway. There are actually whichever rooms, gender neutral bathrooms on both hallways. I did not know there was one on the stage left hallway all at the end, but there's also one stage right hallway most of the way down. And then the men's room is also stage right hallway. So please feel free to use the restroom if you are so inclined. Wi-Fi, there's Wi-Fi information down at the bottom. It should be on every slide, so you should make sure that you can get on the Wi-Fi if you need to. Okay, so agenda, so announcements. We're announcing things right now, so that's what's going on right now. We're going to do some presentations. For those of you who have not been to one of the New York City meetups, we usually do some lightning presentations, which are kind of quick, fast-paced, 5-10 minute things. Then we do some longer ones, and today is no exception. We have some great presentations coming up. At the end, we'll talk for a couple minutes, and then we have some socializing at Bill's Bar. So Bill's Bar is downstairs on 51st Street, and everyone is welcome to join. And please come and socialize and eat, drink, and be merry. What? Ooh, where? What? No. Okay. Okay, so talks. We're going to have 4 talks this evening. The first 3 are lightning talks, I believe. If I remember my slides correctly. Yes, I'm being told yes. So we have C for Q access code, creating pathways through technologies. Tony's going to be giving that one. I'm not even going to try Tony's last name here. Yeah, okay. Everyone can read that. John Pugh, diversity and inclusion in Drupal, growing your community. Becoming multilingual, Kermit's going to do that. Introduction to Lingotext D8 translation module, sounds cool. And then leveling up, how to go from developer to CTO. Gergely? Gergely? Is that right? I apologize. It does have an L in there, in my defense. I'm good. Okay. So we got some good talks coming up. I don't know why I'm flipping through that. The organizers. So we always like to put this slide up and make sure everybody knows who the organizers are, because we really do value the feedback that we get from people, and we do try and improve this meetup each month. So these are the people to come and talk to. Many of them are in the room. Wave if you're an organizer. Yay. So find someone who's an organizer. Yay. We also do it selfishly to get you to clap it for us. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, we very much do appreciate feedback. So if you have some ideas, if you have a topic for a talk that you want to bring up, if you have, hey, it would be great if the chairs were all backwards, whatever your suggestions are, let us know. And we will discuss it as a group and see what we can do. Venue, food and drink, sponsored by us. It's actually not, and funnily enough, it is not sponsored by NBCU Technology anymore. NBC has a habit of reorging every 6 months. The NBCU Technology Group is no longer sponsoring this. It's now NBCU Operations and Technical Services who is sponsoring this. I'll change that logo at some point. But yes, thank you to NBC for sponsoring the food and the drinks and the space. This is a really amazingly awesome, wonderful space that we have here. We were nomads for a while, and this has been nice and constant. I think we're well over a year now. I think we're at like 15th one here, so awesome. So thank you, NBC. The Afterparty at Bill's Bar, sponsored by our good friends at Fastly, so please come and join us there. So thank you, Fastly. Yay! What else we got here? Photos and hashtag. Oh, I forgot my interesting fact. I usually try and find out an interesting fact about NBC or Rockefeller Center or something. And I drive the pages that brought you up. How cool is that? We have like NBC pages that bring you up and downstairs. And I drive them nuts and make them think of something for me. So the one they thought of today was really interesting. Backstage on the SNL set, before the host goes on, there's a gnome, and for luck, they rubbed the head of the gnome, and they have rubbed it to the point where it has no face left. I just thought that was awesome. So that's pretty cool. Okay, photos and hashtags. Yes, please do take photos. Make everybody jealous that they did not come tonight, so that they will come to the next meetup. If you do take photos, you can upload them to the event on meetup.com/Drupal NYC. Do it on the Twitters at hashtag Drupal NYC, Instagram, hashtag Drupal NYC. We're Drupal NYC pretty much everywhere is basically the moral of the story. But yes, definitely take photos and share them with your friends and your neighbors friends and your friends' neighbors. Thank you. Slack channel. So it's not that recent anymore, but recently we introduced the drupalnyc.slack.com Slack channel. Excuse me, please definitely join. All of the organizers are always on there, as well as members of the Drupal NYC community. They hang out in there, answer questions, just chat about what's going on, ask about the meetup. When is it again? That kind of question. That's great. But anything you want. So definitely join us in Slack. All right. Upcoming events. C4Q, access code info session tomorrow, June 8th from 7 to 8:30. I have actually no idea what this event is about. So if there's anyone in the room who does, who wants to shout out. We're going to get an explanation in a few. Oh, that's part of, yeah, that's true. That's part of one of the lightning talks. Perfect. Details soon. A free Drupal 2-hour anti-crash intro to website building, June 9th. That's in a couple days. And you can find out about that on groups.drupal.org. The Twin Cities Drupal Camp in Minneapolis is coming up end of June, 22nd to 25th. And then Design for Drupal is a pretty big annual camp. Well, so is Twin Cities Drupal Camp, but Design for Drupal is a pretty large annual camp. Yes? Drupal Camp Montreal is not on the list, but the Google says it is the 15th through the 18th of this month, and it is in Montreal, Canada. Okay, so if anyone, which is closer than the one in Minneapolis, and they speak French. So, okay. They also speak English. The camp is in English. Okay. The Drupal Association. So the Drupal Association is a really great organization. They're definitely responsible for making sure that things like Drupal.org stay up. They're responsible for trying to build the community and keep the community up and running in all of its facets. They help out with all of the various camps and meetups like this by doing certain administrative tasks and handling things like we need insurance for the Drupal camp, things like that are kind of much better to have centralized in an org. But most importantly, they make sure that the Drupal kind of community has what it needs to keep the project going and keep it thriving. So please do become a member of the Drupal Association. You can be an individual member. You can become a company, corporate member, company-wide member. I don't know what they call it now, but you get the idea. But I really do encourage everybody. We're all kind of using this tool to either build our careers, build our hobbies, do what we're doing. It's a great way to do something that gives back to everybody who's putting in all this time and work, yourselves included, to make the Drupal community awesome. So Drupal Association, association.drupal.org/membership. Tell them Alex sent you. Okay. Interested in speaking? Who is interested in speaking? Everyone's hand go up. Everyone's hand go up. Everyone. No, everyone. Okay. No, in all seriousness, if you're interested in speaking, please talk to some of the organizers. There's also Drupal.nyc/suggest. This was put up recently by our friend Ben over there, and it's a way of letting the organizers know, hey, I would really like to know about X, Y, or Z topic. I would love to see a talk on decoupling Drupal, or I'd love to see a talk on advanced theming, or whatever the topic is that's like been eating at you that you really want to see someone go in a little little bit of depth about. Once we know topics like that, we will do our best to find an expert or somebody who can really talk about that that particular topic. So definitely suggest some ideas. If you have an idea that you would like to talk about, that's a great way to suggest it, or come and find any of the organizers. And then, like I said, even if it's not something you want to talk about, but you want someone else to talk about, let us know. It's a great way for us to know kind of what sort of content we can put together for this this monthly meetup. So please do that. Questions, comments, concerns, jokes, poems? Nothing. Okay. Click. There we go. Who's hiring? So selfish plug. That's why I've been out for the last 4 of these. That's Oren. He's teeny tiny. And he's hiring, so I put his picture up here. But in all seriousness, who in the room either is personally hiring or works for a company that they're hiring, some Drupal talent, they're looking for someone? There's some folks, yeah. All right, everyone gets 1 sentence to tell me who they are and what position they're hiring for, who they're looking for.
Hello, Ronald Veras with MTA. I'm looking for application development specialist, but we have many positions available. But for tonight, application development specialist, looking for Drupal 8 would be great.
All right. Who else had their hand up? Oh, we have one over here.
Hi, I'm Brad Webb. I work with the Atlantic Group. I'm looking for a mid-level full-stack Drupal developer. Drupal 7, Drupal 8 is obviously a big plus.
Cool, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? All the way over there. It's all the exercise I've had in 3 months. Okay.
Hello, my name's Daryl Steplight. Sound weird on the mic. And I'm working at Citibank, and we are looking for Drupal developers.
All right. Who in the room is looking for a job? Who's looking for a job? Mike Myers is looking for a job. Look at that. Interesting. Fascinating. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yeah, right over here. Okay. All right. So at the end of the meetup, everybody who is looking to hire someone, descend on these 2 gentlemen right here. All right. Let's put this back in. Well, NBCU is thank you. It's so automatic that I forget to say it. NBC is always hiring. Yes, we are always looking for people, so come talk to me if you're interested in working at NBC. Okay. All right, introductions. So yeah, we used to do this whole big long thing where everybody in the room would say who they are and what company they're with, and it took forever. So we came up with a much better system. Everybody turn to the person to your left or to your right. Introduce yourself. If you're sitting next to someone you already know, find someone else who you don't know and introduce yourself. And we'll be back in like 5 minutes. And freeze. See, it doesn't work with my 4-year-old either. Okay. All right, so I like to cut people off in the middle of whatever sentence they have so that they have a sentence to continue with at Bill's Bar later, sponsored by our good friends at Fastly. So, whoa, bless you. Scott, that was powerful. That was a bold sneeze. Okay, here we go. Our first speaker is coming to talk about C4Q, and I forgot to open up my slides that Ben printed out, so I don't even. C4Q. All right, Coalition for Queens, which we're going to find out a lot more about in just a second. Access Code program teaches coding and professional skills to talented adults from diverse and low-income backgrounds. The 10-month program is no upfront cost to students, so anyone interested in breaking into the industry can have a chance. And here we have some more info from Tony.
Thanks, Alex.
Speak. Are you presenting anything?
Yeah, just this.
Just this?
Okay. Thank you. All right. Hey. Wow, you guys are a good crowd. I like that. Thanks very much. I'm Tony Bacigalupo, by the way. That's how you pronounce it. I had about 30-something years to get it figured out, so I got a head start. So I am here. First of all, thanks to Alex and to Ben and Ho Ling for all of your help. I think you've probably seen an email about this before. But I'm on a mission to find people who want to start a career in the world of coding. But who may not be able to afford to invest in a proper education to be able to actually get to that point where they can actually get hired and get that awesome job. The nonprofit, the Coalition for Queens, you just heard from Alex, offers a no upfront cost 10-month coding school. It is starting in August, the next round. The application deadline is later this month. And what I need to do is just find people who are ready to learn, and they could be at any level of knowledge, but what this program basically does is just get you from wherever you're at to the point where you're ready to actually interview and be hired by a company. There's actually a brain trust of local tech companies that are guiding the curriculum, so there's the education is made to be relevant so that basically we get people hired at the end of it and transform their lives because now they're making good money in a new career. And so what I need your help with is, well, first of all, if you're interested in applying, please come talk to me, of course. But I assume that most of you are already in this industry. So what I'm curious about is, do you know where there might be pockets of people hiding who would be interested in joining this industry but maybe don't know where to start, maybe could use that extra hand? And I would like to recruit you as agents to help to spread the word and to reach a few of those people. And if I can just get a few of you to get a few of those applicants in our doors, then we're going to be able to change a whole bunch of lives. So that's the gist of it. There's plenty more I'd love to talk to you about. In particular, I'm very interested to reach people without college degrees, people of color, people who are women, people who are just from underserved backgrounds. So if you know of communities that are maybe outside of the usual tech circles, where there are folks who would be excited to have this opportunity, please come talk to me. I have flyers. I will be around. And actually, if you want a flyer, maybe, I don't know if I want to have you all raise your hands, and I'll just have the flyers. And okay, yeah, raise your hands. We could do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh boy, 5. Okay, I can remember this. I'm just gonna walk around, and then you can grab a flyer from me after this. And I appreciate your time. Any quick questions before we go? Yep. Thank you very much for asking that very good question. No upfront cost. So if someone goes through the program and they get hired by a company as a result of their education and they're making over $50K, we ask them to pay it forward and contribute a portion of their salary for the first 2 years of their job back to the program. Everybody wins. That's the deal. Other questions? Nonprofit, yes. Hi, Beth. Are we looking for teachers? Absolutely. Looking for teachers, looking for volunteers, all that stuff. c4q.nyc. My email is tony@c4q.nyc. So yeah, there's plenty of information on there how to get involved. Anybody else? Okay, I am going to go around and pass out flyers. Please grab one from me, and thank you so much for your support.
All right, thank you. Awesome. That's very cool. Okay, thank you, Tony. where is John? John, do you want to come up and start plugging yourself in? Yeah, that John. Next. There we go. Okay, so our next lightning talk, right? Ish. Lightning and thunder talk. Diversity and inclusion in Drupal, growing our community. This is John Pugh. He's the founder of ThinkDrop, which is a Drupal and open source consulting firm, and he's been using Drupal exclusively since 1833. Rockefeller Center was built in
All right, that last one was super lightning, so.
Okay, so while you're
Almost
still
done.
getting set up, one other quick thing at the end or during during the talk, if there are questions, just try and remember to like throw your hands up and wait for the mic. Just we're recording this. We put this on YouTube, and if you use the mic, then everyone can hear the question, and B, it'll get recorded just like everything else. And also, did everybody notice Tony had a Queen of Clubs on his shirt? Because it's Queens, right? Did you notice that? It worked. Yeah. Okay. So I think I've stalled long enough. No?
Well,
Oh, what happened?
he's
Oh,
switching.
here we go. We're going to use magic. Look at that. You can do it remotely.
All right.
Fabulous. All right. Go ahead, John.
All right, thanks, Alex. Well, get my VPN out of here. Sorry. All right, so yeah, it's me. I am John. Trying to switch this back. Okay, so this is not my talk, really. This is a good friend of mine who's been promoting these ideas for a long time within Drupal. A lot of people work on kind of diversity and inclusion across all of our society. I'm just here to kind of convey what Nikki's specifically been doing with the specific Drupal and diversity inclusion initiative. So I'm a white guy, if you noticed. I'm just a programmer, but I think about it. The reason I was is because I was lucky enough to have computers in my house since I was like 5 years old. We had like a Commodore 64, and then all these old computers, and I say it was last generation because they were hand-me-downs from my father's office. But that kind of led me into HTML instead of like 3D graphics and all the cutting-edge stuff. So I'm still new at all of this, diversity stuff, but I'm learning and growing. So I'm not, and like I said, an official member of the DDI group because there really is no membership. It's just a loose group of volunteers. I'm not a spokesperson for the group because, again, there isn't really one. I'm not an expert on this topic, and so I'm clearly not the best person to speak on this topic. But I'm here. Why am I here? Okay. Because, again, I've known Nikki for a long time. So I met her at DrupalCon in San Francisco. She moved to New York a couple of years later. She gave a talk way back in 2012, I think it was, at the World Trade Center meetup. And I was basically given the opportunity to speak on anything, and I didn't know what to speak on. I've done a bunch of technical talks. I asked Toling, I was like, any theme or whatever, and she said, I don't know, DrupalCon recaps, and I was like, okay, you know what? This is a big deal, this is important. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about this initiative, this working group that Nikki's been working on. And they really just, because they're so inspiring and just make me want to just, tell everybody about this, because this is really important stuff. Only half the world is on the internet right now, and the rest of it's coming online. And they're coming from everywhere but here. And Drupal changes our lives, gives us jobs in a very real way. And, we all deserve an opportunity to be a part of this community and feel welcome and, all that. So this is Nikki. She's like a verifiable genius. She's an engineer extraordinaire. She's hilarious, and everyone loves her. PhD student, just crazy all around, smart person. She starts off one of her talks. I'm basically just going to go through a history. She gave a bunch of talks. I'm going to summarize them. It is almost all Nikki quotes. But she's here in Drupal and started this group because she believes in open source. I believe in the values that it stands for. I believe in doing work and giving away, and believe that benefits all of us. So primarily she's here because of Drupal and open source and that power. She's not just here to be an activist. If you care, get involved. It's kind of this theme that came out on Twitter. So I took her challenge and was like, all right, let's do it. Why not? This talk is not, I forgot to animate this slide, but it's about the working group. It's history, goals, successes, and challenges. Discussion on how we can all be more welcoming and inclusive in our lives. Invitation for everyone to join the discussion, contribute their opinions in an honest, respectful way. And it's mostly just great quotes from Nikki and others. This is not about why diversity is a good thing. We're not debating that. That's been debated and it's over. You can go learn why on your own. Use Google. Not an official presentation, like I said earlier. This is not a lecture on how to be more politically correct, and this is certainly not about any Drupal drama of any kind. And so, again, this is all just like reappropriated from their presentations. I got a lot of quotes from there, but what many label political correctness is, in fact, a minimally difficult effort at using language that shows respect. So, you know, political correct is thrown around like it's a bad thing, but come on, it just means like be nice and have some respect for people, right? So the group, they have a website, Twitter account, they're on GitHub and on Slack. They are a collection of volunteers, completely transparent. All work is on GitHub issues and Slack channels. Meeting notes are markdown files. It's open. Anybody can go into that Slack channel and just start talking, and you're going to be treated with respect, and whatever your opinion might be. The group is not directly affiliated with the Drupal Association or the working group or DrupalCon or DREES or any of the official power structures. It's just loose volunteers that came together and started talking. It's not funded by any outside groups. It's not involved in Drupal governance. So this isn't a conversation about the rules and all that stuff. The purpose is to advocate for a more diverse, inclusive, and respectful community. Provide a safe space to discuss issues of diversity and inclusion within the Drupal community, which is that Slack channel. You know, even if you don't agree with different things, you can come in and feel safe talking about it in there. Provide support for people who are marginalized in technology. Provide strategies, this is all off their website. Provide strategies for increasing the diversity and inclusivity of community and organizations. And to share resources about all this stuff. So there's a lot of links and books and all sorts of things on their website that you can learn about all these things. And it all ended up with this lovely logo that you may have seen if you went to DrupalCon Baltimore. So in last year, New Orleans, there was a great session. They had a BOF afterwards, and the discussions were, this was before it was officially a working group or whatever. It just inspired so many people to come together and talk that very quickly after the session, they started having meetings in IRC. They moved to Slack like a week later. Nikki was invited to be the keynote in DrupalCon Costa Rica in September. At Bad Camp, they put up a website, and by October and January, the Drupal Association started engaging with them to try to see what they could do to kind of make things a little more inclusive, and they started asking questions on the sessions submission form. And I'll talk about that a little later. This year, there was another session that was put into the community conversations track. It was an awesome, it was kind of like a lightning session of 100 ways you can be an ally by Nikki. She won the Aaron Winborn Award, which goes to outstanding community members. And if, some of you may know Aaron passed from ALS, and so they made an award they give out to people that are just stellar community members. They launched a photo booth at the sponsors hall, so they were taking pictures of everybody and putting it on Twitter and Instagram. Dries was asked about diversity in the Q&A, and he basically said, like, I really support it, but I don't know much about it, so we should look towards people that do know a lot about it and mention the group as a way to learn more about how to make the community more diverse. And so as of yesterday, they had 435 members in the Slack channel and 500 followers on Twitter. So it's not a huge thing, but it's only been a year, right? So I kind of just listened to all these sessions and just started transcribing a lot of stuff because it's not even in her slides. It's like the stuff that she says that is so inspiring. So I'm just going to kind of like read what some of the stuff she says, and I'll try to go fast because this is supposed to be lightning talk. And this is all from her voice, right? So it feels like, well, I'm just a person. I can't change the number of women who are entering STEM programs in college. I can't change the experiences that people are having at Fortune 500 companies. But what I can do is change the way that I interact with the people around me and hope that the people around me change the way that they interact with people around them. We are constantly denying each other's lived experience from something as small as, well, the Wi-Fi works for me. I don't know, you're complaining to me about what, I don't care because it works for me, to, oh, I thought that conference was super welcoming. I felt so at home. You didn't feel welcome? You know, to just like, oh, that you got a bad vibe from that guy, or I think he's fine. He's friendly to me, right? Or like, you got offended by that joke? I don't know why. That seems, nothing wrong with that. So we do to each other constantly. It's just like what we do as human beings, right? To just kind of not think about in the moment what that other person is going through. So it doesn't make us bad people. It's just something that we have been acculturated to do, and it's something that we can absolutely unlearn to do. And she says, I think this is absolutely foundational to being a good ally to each other. When someone is saying, I had a hard time, this makes me feel uncomfortable, I don't feel welcome here, this is not accessible to me because of my different set of abilities, just honor that. Like, who am I to say that didn't made you feel uncomfortable or didn't? And this is from Karen, who co-presented this session, but she talks about like the office environment. Is it cool? Is it a cool place to work, or is it exclusionary? Like, she was talking about a place that just had a wall of skateboards. It was like, oh, we don't all skateboard or care. So she's like, well, if I don't skateboard or I don't play ping pong, am I going to feel stupid? And I'll take my boss's challenge every day to ping pong. I don't want to lose, and I don't suck. You know, maybe I suck. So there's a lot of things that we take for granted that are like, oh, it's a cool place to work and it's fine, but you know, it might not be cool for everybody. They might just not be interested at all. I don't care about the beer and ping pong. I'm going to be there. I'm going to work, and then I'm going to go home because I have stuff to do, right? So this is an interesting one. So when you think about risk in technology, we all take risks all the time, and most of us are pretty comfortable with it. We'll say, here a big project, we'll be like, yeah, I'll get it done, and I think I know how to do that, you know, or I'll present, I'll do that thing. But when it comes to something much smaller, like saying, hey, I didn't think that joke was too cool, suddenly we're super risk averse to like standing up and saying something that we might feel. But we can all make a decision within ourselves that we're going to be someone who stands up for diversity and inclusion. I'm a person who, when I see something that I believe is unfair or unjust or inappropriate, I'm going to stand up. Because when you're in that moment, somebody makes a joke and you're like, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm just going to back away. I'm really uncomfortable. I don't want them to think I'm not cool. If you've already decided, it kind of takes the pressure off and you're kind of prepared to be like, you know what, that's not so hot. So as we're trying to learn from the people around us, we are absolutely going to make mistakes. And part of it is slowing down and not getting defensive when those mistakes are called out and trying to just make a point to learn from them because they're sure going to happen. And this is just taking the things that we learn as engineering technology workers. We've all learned to take a close look at the situation before we make an estimate or before we make a decision. And I'm just applying that to people and situations. So you can kind of see like her perspective, and I'm so inspired by the way she approaches these things and talks about them, because it's you know, this could be like a controversial thing that people start fighting over, but it's not. It's very simple. Hashtag Drupal diversity. So after that session, I mean, you can see why like a lot of people were just really passionate about talking more and continuing the effort. And so like right away, again, they just started meeting in IRC, have had weekly meetings since that first session, just to talk about how they can advocate and make things better for everybody. She developed this diversity of the web survey in a different way than there's been diversity surveys done before by like GitHub and I think Stack Exchange and some other ones, but they wanted to do it slightly differently, so they developed the questions themselves totally out in the open on GitHub, so people could suggest changes to the options and whatnot. And it just, you know, it's really important to start asking these things so we can just start talking about them and everybody can contribute. There's a link somewhere you can go take the survey. So our next achievement really was for the Drupal Association engaging them, and they decided to directly, this is a statement from DrupalCon website, where they announced that we're making diversity a DrupalCon goal explicitly. We're communicating our intentions to a more diverse audience, which means we're saying, yes, we want to be more diverse, come speak, come join us. Providing resources, both monetary and supportive, to those from underrepresented groups that want to submit, and continuing supporting communication with all selected speakers. So they actually have like a $350 fee,
honorarium.
Yeah, scholarship to help people pay for travel or whatever to come speak, which is pretty big because they haven't paid any speakers, which is controversial in itself, but it's good that they're at least putting money where it's most going to be useful. Yeah, so they added this to the session submission application. In an effort to help DrupalCon gather citizens of the Drupal ecosystem, we're making conscious effort to increase diversity, and you can submit information saying, self-identifying, saying like, I'm from this particular group, so maybe, to both collect demographics, but to also know that we're not just going to select all white dudes to speak. Did anyone hear about this like GitHub conference recently that got canceled? They did like a blind session thing, and basically 100% of the speakers ended up being white dudes. And so they actually canceled the event and started over.
Oops.
So anyway, they're proud to help lower the financial barriers for persons and are offering the stipend, as I mentioned. So like so much has happened, right? So let's see, what am I going to do next? Okay, so this is the Baltimore session. This session was mostly like kind of what I'm doing now, just recapping the year, but there's some cool things. What simple ways you can make the place feel more welcoming and inclusive? They made these little badges, and if you're wearing this badge, it means come talk to me. I'm open to be. You can talk to me about anything. And those people are like more active about being friendly and saying hello and like inviting you to say, just saying like I'm free to talk about anything. There's the photo booth. Another thing like a lot of camps do, I think New Jersey's been doing this for many years, is not everyone likes to be photographed. So these camps have photographers all over, and not everyone likes that, so that they came up with a way to just have a different colored lanyard. So like if you kind of don't want your photo on the internet, you just pick the other lanyard, and we respect those people. They feel less uncomfortable, and they're actually more likely to come out and come back. A little tweet mentioning the wall. It was just really nice, after all, the community stuff, to see everyone kind of showing their faces and smiling. So the other session that was given, this was awesome. This is such a hardcore boot camp on these issues. Okay, 100 ways to be an ally. And so this is the thing. There's this thing called spectrum of allies that I've learned about, where the world is rough. People aren't so nice in the world, and sometimes people kind of put up with those not nice people and the not nice things they do. And so there's a whole range of like, am I going to, act against this type of behavior? Am I just going to kind of accept it? And it's not, you're never like, oh, I'm on board. I'm a woke dude now. I care, It's a whole, spectrum. People will move from one to the other, and hopefully, we'll all be better off, get along better. And so this was literally 100 different slides that she had that was like pounding it out. This is one of the quotes she used, where each and every one of us has the capacity to be an oppressor. And I'm sure we've all kind of been a jerk, whether we meant it or not, at some point in our lives, right? Where we just kind of didn't know what we were saying, or just didn't understand who we were talking to, and kind of put our foot in our mouth or something, right? So I kind of went through this thing and picked the top 10. And it's very self-reflective stuff, right? So her first one, there's no importance tied to the numbers, but acknowledge and understand your privileges. Like, I have had a computer in my house my whole life. And, I didn't really think about it until I was an adult, going, oh yeah, that doesn't mean I deserve a job. Just because I'm smart with computers. It's like, there's a reason I was smart with computers, because I was lucky enough to be in that household where my father was a lawyer and had computers that were just given away. We literally didn't even have to pay for them. They were just sent home. And so everyone has that. If you're an American, you have privilege. You're living in, if you're, and there's all sorts of things. So just understand that stuff. And if the word privilege is a trigger for you, you got to find out why. Nikki Stevens quote. Acknowledge that systemic racism and sexism and ableism exist. I did a quick search to try to find something to add to this slide, and it was like, benandjerrys.com. Yeah. Really cool little infographics, and there's a really great little article, actually. And so, come on. These guys recognize systemic racism exists to the point where they were like, yeah, we're going to put an article about it, because this is important. Get a grip on your fragilities. These are all copied from her, but I agree with all of them. People get their feelings hurt when someone calls them a racist or a sexist, but being called a sexist isn't as bad as experiencing sexism, right? It's really not. So like, let's put things in perspective and just start, and that leads into this thing. Number 7, learn how to apologize and move on. Because like, again, her approach is awesome. She's not like saying, oh, everyone that makes a mistake or says something slightly sexist is a bad guy. It's like, but if you don't accept it and recognize it and don't know how to apologize and move on, then, it becomes problematic. So do not disqualify experiences. Like we can't say to someone else, that shouldn't have offended you or that shouldn't have bothered you. We have no right to do that. When we're white dudes, we're offended all the time. People say things that make us uncomfortable all the time. So when people I'm going to like do exact impersonation. When someone tells you that they're experiencing something, just believe them. It's very simple. Just believe them. Number 5, consume media made by people not like you. One of the other ones, she was like, follow people of color on Twitter. Very simple steps. It's very interesting. I did it. It wasn't hard. It's highly entertaining and enlightening. You learn things that you don't see from if you're just following other Drupal developers, right? Stop trying to help. I do this a lot. I'm a huge fault. I'm hugely at fault at this. Tips, giving tips, compliments, mansplaining, just trying to help. It's just to stop. just stop. It's okay. I have to learn this too. It's hard not to help. You always want to help and help fix their problems. Again, these are all things I'm being taught and just passing on these lessons, right? So, number 3, say hi to new people. Whether it's a meetup or a camp or whatever, like we kind of are all introverted nerds, right? But not, everyone's there. Somebody's new. Somebody doesn't know everybody, and like this was just an off-the-cuff statement by her from a question in the audience, and I just had to write it down because it's just brilliant. And she got an applause for this. It's like common sense. Just make direct eye contact with people when you see them in the hallway and smile at them when you're at the conventions or wherever. It makes a big difference. They might get a feeling like, oh, it wasn't lonely and weird. I actually made a friend, and now I'm going to come back to the convention. Number 2, and this one's for me right now, standing up here. Break away from the savior complex. Like, if you're being an ally, that's great. You should be. You don't get candy for it. You don't get a reward for being a decent human being for the people around you. But it's tempting to think that you do because the thing that you're doing might feel so scary for you. And she's right. It's terrifying to be up here right now talking about this. So the last number one is just to listen. We need to shut up more and listen. I interrupt people all the time. I'm a man, and it's not a good habit. So just the number 1 thing you can ever do is just to listen to people more. And again, a flyaway quote of hers, just the underlying message of all this is empathy. Just empathy and patience with each other. And because of all of this inspiring stuff, they gave her the Aaron Winborn Award, which is very kind of a moving thing because, Aaron, wasn't just well known, and he really inspired countless number of people with knowledge and excitement and mentorship and all of these things. So I'm not going to, I've read enough words, but you can kind of read the statement that they have online about why. But her leadership in particular has been instrumental in inspiring others to help tell their stories, bringing people together to make our community a place where more people can feel welcome. We have a long way left to go, but the work Nikki and others are doing now is building the foundation for a better, more sustainable project and community both now and in the future. So again, if you care, get involved. This is their website, very basic, but there's an initiatives and get involved link right at the top in the primary links. They created an organizer packet for event organizers to kind of give tips on how to kind of make your event a little more open and welcoming. There's plenty of, GitHub stuff you can do. Resources, there's a ton of articles and books on this page. They started a book club. So they are sharing, they're reading the same chapters of interesting books, and every week they're talking about it in the Slack chat room, which is really cool. And there's, like I said, everything's in GitHub out in the open. There's the organizer resource packet, weekly meeting notes in Markdown, and the Slack channel. So, like I said, this is conversation. That's the end of my presentation. And I guess, it's lightning talk, but if anybody wants to talk, ask a question, I guess.
Anybody have
They can,
questions,
or we could just do it
comments?
later.
All right. Thanks. That was great.
Really quickly, you may have said it, but I might have missed it because I was on there slacking in the channel right when you said that. Did you mention that there's a meeting tomorrow morning?
It's
Tomorrow?
it's weekly. I did not.
Oh, okay.
I did say it was weekly though, and so it's tomorrow. It's every Thursday's tomorrow. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, and it's in Slack. It's not like a phone call or something. You could just pop in and type or whatever.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Kermit, come on up and get yourself settled. All right, here we go. Our next lightning talk, which will also be 85 minutes long. Our next lightning talk, Becoming Multilingual, an Introduction to Lingotext D8 Translation Module. This is Kermit Ramirez. He's going to be talking about the translation module for D8. That'll be cool. And he'll tell us all about it. Kermit is a web specialist for the Department of Patient and Caregiver Education at MSKCC, at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Sorry, my wife works there also, so it's just MSKCC. It comes out of my mouth. And has been a member of the Drupal community since 1731. Well done. All right. So we're good. Where's, there he is. Perfect. Take it away.
Everyone, thanks for having me. I am Kermit Ramirez. Kermit like the frog, 2 T's. Well, what happened? There we go. So I am the web specialist for patient caregiver education.
Hold on. Giovanni, what'd you do? There we go. We're back. Rockefeller Center was built in 1930. Okay.
There it is. All right. So, again, I'm Kermit Ramirez, the web specialist for patient and caregiver education at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. I guess my role is really more like a project manager kind of thing. But my department specifically creates these resources for patients, obviously, we have a site on Drupal that serves them. So. It's pretty cool. We have a lot of cool features, and we're working on translating our resources right now using the Lingotext module. So this is not a sponsored talk at all. I really thought this is some cool stuff, and I wanted to share what's going on. But to give you some background, I'll talk about the benefits of multilingual sites. If you aren't already multilingual, probably should be. You're missing out on big opportunities to broaden your audience range. Target a particular audience, stay ahead of the competition by providing your content services to as many audiences as you choose to, and more than that, you're working with your customers, so your customers are more likely to do business with you if you cater to their needs, their language needs, and customers feel safe navigating a site in their native language. So thankfully, D8 is multilingual out of the box. And I'll just walk through these steps really briefly. First step, install Drupal in the language of your choice. It's right there. You'll get a drop down. There, I'm translating into Spanish, my site. Click Save, continue. And Drupal downloads and imports the translations to your system. As you can see, everything's already in Spanish. And on top of that, it installs 4 multilingual modules when a foreign language is installed. So that's compared to 20 plus modules you needed to install in D7 to accomplish the same core functionality. So these are the 4 modules that get installed. And let's skip over that. I mean, I want to talk more about content translation because this is the core of this. And of course, when we talk about content translation, there's options, right? So machine translation is really popular, and can you trust it? Maybe not. In the medical field, definitely not. So just wanted to point out some examples here. So there were some, this is from the British Medical Journal, and I'll just read one of these quotes. There were some serious errors. For instance, your child is fitting, translated into Swahili to your child is dead. That's like definitely wrong. In Polish, your husband has the opportunity to donate his organs. Translated to, your husband can donate his tools. So, and in Marathi, your husband had a cardiac arrest. Translated to, your husband had an imprisonment of heart. And lastly, your wife needs to be ventilated. In Bengali, translated to, your wife, wind movement needed. I mean, that makes sense to me. I don't know. So yeah, machine translation, it's all about in context. I don't not recommend it. I think it's great. It's an easy way to get your translations going. And in fact, I'll show you how that works with the LinguaTech module. But professional translation would be the best way to go, and that's human translation, of course. So you need to become familiar with some terminology first when you start this kind of project. So it's a bunch of things. So source language, obviously that's the English or whatever language you're choosing to translate. Target language, Spanish or whatever you're choosing to go to. Localization versus translation, I mean, that's just saying localization is you're targeting a specific audience and you're speaking, or towards their cultural matters. Linguists are the professionals doing the translation. Glossaries and style guides are linguistic assets that you provide to the translators when you're setting up your translation, your professional translation. Translation memory is basically a data bank that's populated by running all your pages and finding frequent terms. And sorry if I'm not saying this right. Professional translation obviously is human translation. And translation management system I'll go into. This is what LinguaTech provides within their module. Okay, so we can probably start translating now. And I say it's a trap because there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to go through each one unless you guys really want me to. But so there's a lot of tasks for project managers, a lot of tasks for web admins. And LinguaTech is the solution, I think, that has made this so much easier. Before, my department would send these emails back and forward to translation companies just to get a translation solved, or like we would find issues with a translation and go back and forth in emails again, and it would be an endless process. We wouldn't see a translation for about a month or two, before it's completed. So with LinguaTech, it's just been pretty amazing to see the turnaround, the ease of communication with the linguists, I guess, that we're hoping to achieve here. So I'm going to recommend LinguaTech now. So let's see. So a little bit about LinguaTech. LinguaTech provides a cloud-based translation management system within Drupal, which incorporates all linguistic assets, project management, quality, workflow, workbench, and analytics. The biggest benefit here, I think, content lives in your CMS. It's not hosted on a proxy, as other translation services offer. So it's all yours. Your editors can edit the translations if they wanted. They can go in. Continuous localization as content changes can be pushed automatically to LinguaTech's online translation workbench, leveraging machine translation or professional translation. So LinguaTech's obviously a Drupal module, so it's community maintained. It's built on D8's existing multilingual modules, and the LinguaTech module supports translation of entity types, taxonomy terms, configuration items, properties, and built-in interface strings. All that can be found on their Drupal.org page for the module itself. Okay, and here I just wanted to show a brief demo of the module working in our own dev environment. I'm translating right now an English document to Spanish. As you can see, it's a very quick process. Let me go back to, sorry. Start at the wrong point, so it's a lot faster than we'd want it to be. So give me 1 second. So, okay. So yeah, and there's Russian. Literally, it took me seconds. I uploaded the source in English, and I clicked through for translation to Spanish and Russian, and that's machine translation that's occurring. So it might not be the most accurate, but you're going to get your content translated right away. Yeah, this is the admin UI for LinguaTech that you'll get. So, and there's a color coding going on for the translations as it progresses. Okay. To install the module, just go to LinguaTech page. There's a link, and then I'll share my slide deck here so you guys can get all this. And yeah. And these are some useful links that really helped me, in doing my research for this. Gabor has a great documentation for multilingual. Linguotech's own Drupal 8 documentation is fantastic. And I've been just using Simply Test Me for testing out the module, so go ahead and play with it. I recommend it. Any questions? Right, so you can actually create your own custom workflows.
Can you just repeat the question?
Oh, sorry.
So the idea here is that you have a machine translation and then you send that as a sort of first draft to a translator to review and improve.
Right, so you can set up your workflows in Linguotech as you want it to be. So machine translation can be the initial step where you use that to leverage professional translation, right? So they'll build from that, correct?
And what is I18N?
I18, sorry.
I18N, it's a string, it was on one of the things
Oh,
about
just
string translation, something or other. It's the second time I've encountered it today, so.
Oh. Sorry, I don't know. Jake, do you?
I18N is internationalization. It's the number of letters between I and N in internationalization. There are 18 letters there. And localization is L10N.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. I guess I don't have to answer that. I was going to ask about. No, it's perfect. I was going to ask about just the service itself. What are the rate limits and all of that on this service? And are there
there's a sales guy.
big plans? Yeah, I'm just kind of curious about it because I assume it's. I shouldn't assume, but I'm kind of assuming that's a freemium model. I was just curious if that was true. Okay.
You can do the machine translation for free, and you'll get a quote for professional translation, obviously. But
1 second.
They'll do a few, like 100 documents a day, and they really, it's like they're using Google Translate. They're paying per translation. Like they're doing it for free because Google Translate does charge for the API. But if you hammer it, they'll shut you down, which I've succeeded in doing. I mean, for a small site, basically, it's a freemium. For a small site that's 100 pages, you could just use Linguotech and just pound through the Google Translate. And then, yes, they're trying to convince you to. They're not promoting heavily to convince you to, do the professional translation.
So it's actually machine to machine, and then it goes to machine to human.
well, yeah, you can keep it machine only if you wanted to, but the workflow. What's that?
Is it accurate?
I mean, it's as accurate as Google Translate is. Although there is the Google Translate neural thing that's going on. It's supposed to be like 60-something% more accurate than the current Google Translate. So maybe it's improving. Yeah, I can't be sure.
Anyone else? All right, thanks a lot, Kermit.
Thank you, guys.
I would like to point out that not a single one of the pop culture reference gifts in there was NBC or Universal. So you will not be asked back to speak again. Oh, wait. Hold on. Do we have the thing? We don't have the thing. Are you presenting? Are you actually presenting? Yeah. Okay. No. Go ahead. All right. Next. There we go. Leveling up, how to go from developer to CTO. Gergi, right? Gergely. Huh? Gergely. Come on. I'm going to get it, I promise. Okay. All right, Gergely is going to talk about how to go from a developer to CTO. He recently moved to New York City to build a branch of the company Cheppers, one of the leading Drupal shops he founded in Central Europe. And he has been working with Drupal since 1272 AD. He uses Alfred 2.
Yeah, and I would like to see it. I mean, have two displays.
What are we looking to do?
I would like to see my speaker notes here and then the presentation itself, if possible. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. You know what? I will do it without speaker notes. Sorry, this is my first time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay, then. Okay. Sorry for the delay. And here we go. So, hi, my name is Gergely Tronka, and I'm here to talk about leveling up, how to go from developer to CTO. Are there any CTOs in the room? Okay. Okay. So a couple of people will know if I'm bullshitting or if. Anyway. The short version is you just you can register a company, just costs you a few $100s in the state of New York, and you can do it online, and you can give yourself a title, any title you want. So boom, you're a CTO. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Actually, I have a question. So what is the long version? And it's a great question. I'm glad I asked. So let me tell you my story. I will tell you how I became a CTO in 2012 and how I stepped down as a CTO in 2016 and what I did in between. And so yeah, I started my career as a PHP developer in 2002. I used to work for Vodafone Hungary. I don't know if you know Vodafone. It's a huge telco company, and this picture was taken in the chill room, in one of the chill rooms at Vodafone. And actually, I wasn't spending much time there. I was pretty busy, and because I was working on two different things in parallel. One of them was an e-learning system, and the other one was a knowledge base for the customer care. So both things were internal facing, so for internal users. And actually, the e-learning system was pretty popular. In other countries of Vodafone, they started using my application, and we even won an award. This gold bar here, actually, there's a bigger picture. So yeah, this is we won this for this application, and totally unrelated. But I also by this time I started working with Drupal, and I tried to convince Vodafone to switch to Drupal, but they said no. As you can see, there were 30 servicing firms globally, so none of them were in Hungary, and where I was working. So there were no companies to provide professional support, and so Drupal just remained a hobby. But in that year, there was a Drupal conference in Budapest, and it wasn't a DrupalCon, of course, but Dries came. That guy there is Dries, and yeah, I was there too. And yeah, so Dries came, even though it was in Hungarian, except for his keynote. So I'm pretty sure he was he must have been pretty bored by the end of the day. But he came back 2 years later. It was a DrupalCon. At this time, it was a proper DrupalCon, and there were more than 500 people. Dries was there. Rasmus was there, the project lead for PHP, and yeah, and I was there. And so this was my first conference where that was. So previously, I went to. I've only been to corporate conferences, and this one was something totally different. This one was an open source conference, and people were not wearing ties and suits, and they were not talking about boring stuff and like return on investment and marketing bullshit. And so this was actually, it blew my mind. Really, it was great. So at this point, I decided to work with Drupal full time, and the same year, there was a recession, some of you might remember, and so the beginning of 2009, there were massive layoffs at Vodafone, and I was one of them. I was one of, despite the award, the golden bar. Anyway, so I had to find out. I mean, I had to figure out what to do next, and I could, of course, I could have gone to a new employer, have a new job as an employee, or I could have started my own business. And you know, I remember that, hey, I built a product once that was pretty popular, so why don't I just do it in my own company? And because, you know, this is a business talk, so some charts, very professional charts, you need these things. So this is the business model for a product company. You would call it a startup today, but so the blue line is the effort, the work, and the green line is the money, the income. And so typically, if while you're building a product, you work a lot and there's no income, but once the product is launched, you can sell it as many times as possible, and money just comes and you stop working. I mean, you're not, of course you need some maintenance and you can add new features and all those things, but at least this is what I thought, how it goes. And the problem was that I actually didn't know how to sell it. So I knew how to build a product. I had done it before, so it was easy, but, and from the severance pay, I could even finance, pay the bills while I'm working on it, but I didn't know how to sell it. And what happened was one of my colleagues, previously from Vodafone, also a victim of the layoffs, he went to work for Aegon, which is a huge insurance company, and he called me and told me that Aegon is looking for an e-learning system, basically the thing that I was thinking about building. So they wanted it, and so I had my first customers. So I just decided to do it. This was my first company. Please don't laugh. But please don't laugh. And yeah, and I built a product. And of course, yeah, I was a CEO, not a CTO. Sorry, but you know, it was a one-man company, so you can call yourself whatever you want. And so I built the e-learning system based on Drupal 6, and I was really happy because Aegon bought it, and I could, like, in less than 2 months, I got to this point where the two lines crossed. So I could actually, I had the product, it worked, they paid me, and I was just, all I needed to do was to sell it again and again. But then I realized that that's not something I want to do. I mean, I'm a developer, and that's what I enjoy. I don't want to be a salesperson, so I decided to hire someone, or to find someone to do it for me. And the problem is that when you're a developer, you don't really know salespeople. I mean, you don't, in my network, there were developers and no salespeople. I mean, even at Vodafone, when we were building this e-learning system, we did it for internal users, and nobody ever sold it. So I had no idea how, and the first sell, it was just someone called me, and I mean, they told me they want it. And anyway, so I didn't know how to find a person, and I tried 6 different people in the next couple months, and none of them really worked out. So I never sold another copy. And yeah, so basically the chart that I just showed you, it didn't really look like this for me. So after a good start, the green line went down again, and whatever I tried, it just stayed down. So then I decided to, okay, admit defeat, move on. And thanks to the community, I started working as a contractor, and then I realized that, okay, that's a better business model. I mean, more predictable. If you have a customer, then you just work for them, and when you work, they pay, and when you don't, then they don't. So this is still something that's like really, it's yeah, less risky than a product company, and really more predictable. And so basically, this is what I've been doing at that point, and I had a few customers. Actually, I was good at it and get more and more customers. So at one point, I had just too much work to handle on my own, and then again, I decided to hire someone. This time, I thought that it's going to be easier than hiring a salesperson, because I need a Drupal developer, and I know Drupal developers, so I can just hire anyone. I mean, I know what I'm looking for, and I know the people I would hire, so what can go wrong? But the thing is, when I, again, asked I talked to people in the community, people I knew who were really great Drupalists, and I told them about it. I told them that, okay, I'm going to, build a great company, and I mean, it's going to be awesome. We're going to be the best, and you should join me. Yeah, work for me. And they said that, okay, well, first, let me see your company take off, and let me see how it goes. So maybe then I will join you. And I was disappointed that it was not what I expected, but okay. So I had to hire people, or try to hire people. I interviewed people who I didn't really know, and it was a bit. It took too long to find the right people, and once I hired someone, I didn't really enjoy. I didn't even enjoy managing myself. So, and managing even someone else, no, not really. So again, I decided to find another person who would do that part, who would do the business part, and this time I had no idea if it was going to be easy or not. But actually, this was the easiest. In just a few months, I found a person who became the co-founder of my second company, and he became the CEO because I didn't want to be the CEO, and he already had a few people, and I already had like more work than I could handle, so it was a perfect match. And yeah, so this is Peter. This picture was taken in the Hungarian office of Chappers. So yeah, so with this guy, we are still working, still to this day, we're working together, and well, now I know the secret. I mean, back then it was just luck, but now I know that the reason is that we can work very well together because we are totally different, and that is what you need, really, because if you work with someone who is like you, then I mean, the two of us, I enjoy some things, enjoy doing some things, and care about some things, and he likes doing other things, and I hate doing those things, and so it's really good. We complement each other, and we can really well share the task, because yeah, so because there are actually two kinds of the way I see it, there are two kinds of things that you do as a manager, and one category is like tennis. Things come and you hit them back, and they keep coming, and that's what you do. You just return all the balls. So that basically like that. And the other kind of thing is building a house of cards, where you have to concentrate and build and not be distracted, and you have to do it. And these two things are not compatible. You cannot do both at the same time. And so it's great when you find someone who's good at one of, or I think these are the good partnerships, or the good pair of founders, when one of them takes care of one kind and the other kind. And so I think that this is why it worked that well. And coming up with a plan and executing that plan, you need two different kinds of personalities. And so basically that's the way I see it, and that's why I think that these things worked out really well with Peter and I. And so this is how Chapters was born, and I became a CTO. So okay, this was part one. Part two. Okay, let's talk about being a CTO. Just one note that so the company Chapters is still working as we're working mostly as contractors because this was the business model that I was the most comfortable with, and it has worked out well, really well. At least while I was the CTO, it was our preferred business model. Anyway, so okay, let's talk about being a CTO. What does a CTO do? Basically, what does CTO stand for? It's Chief Technology Officer. So one of the things the CTO does is technology. And so yeah, when you're the CTO, so in the beginning I was just coding. I was one of the coders. I was the lead developer, but in a small team, that was it. And sometimes I had some other things in, but mostly just coding. Yeah. But as the company grew, I became worse and worse at coding. Partially because I had other things, and coding is like building a house of cards, and my other responsibilities were like the tennis, but it's mainly because there were basically two reasons. One of them was that I worked on, so one of the things was that I tried to hire people who are better coders than I was. I mean, I tried to hire people who are smarter than me, and sometimes I succeeded, and they were better developers. So pretty soon I was not the lead developer at the best coder at Chapters. And also, as time went by, the team grew. I spent more and more times with other things, and I had to realize that I'm so much worse at those other things that at coding. So whenever I had time to improve my skills, I improved my other skills and not the technical ones. So I instead of reading tech blogs and trying out new tools and libraries, I read management books and those kind of things. So yeah, and after a while, I just I decided that I'm going to make sure that my coworkers are good, have good technical skills, and I just don't care about I'm not trying to keep up with them. So yeah, that's technology. And what are the things that kept me away from, or kept me away from technology? Marketing. So even if you're a CTO of a tech company, as I said, we were working as contractors for other tech companies, Drupal shops, agencies, even startups. So we just provided technical technical services for them, development services for them, and consulting services. So when you're that technical and your customers are technical, then your marketing has to be technical as well. So even as I was a CTO, and at a traditional company, a CTO doesn't do marketing, I had to. And so what do you do as for marketing? For example, last year, this is the top 30 Drupal contributor companies and organizations globally. And last year, Chapters, okay, last place, but the top 30. So Chapters was there. And so we spent a huge amount of time on contributions and not just code contributions, but also on organizing events and all kinds of things. For example, we came up with the idea to sponsor YesCT. She was the previous Aaron Wimborn Award winner. So she sponsored her for about 6 months to work on Drupal 8 and this is also something that, if you're not technical, you don't even know who she is. So it was my idea. So as a CTO, you have to do these things. And so what else do you do for marketing? Oh yeah, you speak at events. So yeah, it's not the slide. Look at me. I'm doing it right now. And yeah, you even do crazy things. So once I asked Dries to draw me a chicken with a mustache, and he did. You probably can't read the notes, but anyway, it says that. Yeah, so this page was for that, and I asked him to draw me a chicken with a mustache, and I don't know if it helped or not, but actually a couple years later, Acquia became one of our biggest customers, and actually still to this day, they're our biggest customer. About 20 developers of Chappers are working full time on Acquia's products, like on Cloud and Lyft and these things. And yeah, and of course, as a you even do sales as a CTO if your business is so so heavily tech related. And wherever you do sales, you go to all the events you can go to. So yeah, this picture was taken years ago. I have like twice this many badges from conferences since. And people operations. In case you don't know what this is, so this is human resource, so HR. Some people don't like that term because it's not that humane. Anyway, so this is the term that Google came up with, people operations. And this is the most important. I mean, really, if you're a CTO of a tech company, your number one. So yeah, basically, people operations is hiring and firing and retention of talent, and this is the most important. I mean, in a tech company, the most important assets are the developers. At least that's what I believe. And as the CTO, you are the only person in the management who has a technical background, who understands developers, who speaks their language. So actually, it's up to. I mean, you're a huge part of your job is to make sure that the developers are happy, and you're the only person in the management who actually understands how to do that. And to be honest, this is, well, if I can open up here, this is what I'm the most proud of, because Chappers, so we grew from about 5 people to 50 people while in the past little more over 4 years, and we lost about, I think, 5 or 6 people who decided to leave the company and do the same job at another company, and you know, that's about 10%, and in a small company in Eastern Europe, that's a really good percentage. So I was really happy with that. And actually, if you want to know, I can tell you how to do that, or what I think of what was the reason for that. So how to motivate developers. I can, some of the developers. In order from the least important to the most important, I think the least important is money. After above a certain level, money is not motivating anymore, and you want to work with passionate people, and you can't make people passionate with money. So I think really, I mean, you might not agree with me, but this is my opinion. So money is the least important. Another thing that's not really important is location, but it happened to me more than once that someone told me that he's going to work for Chappers because we have an office in the city center, and he doesn't want to go to one of our competitors and commute a lot more every day. So that is actually something that a little bit matters. And what else? Of course, condition. I mean, work hours and the equipment and all those things, they matter somewhat. But let me tell you what the important things are. One of the important things is projects. Developers want to work on good projects that are challenging. They want to learn from those projects. They want to, they want good projects. And also, another thing that's important is team. So even if you don't have a good projects, but you have a very good team, and your developers can work with other smart people, fun people, people who are, take responsibility for their actions, and people who are good to work with. They might stay longer. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is the progress of the company. So even if you have a great environment and good projects, good team, after a while, if there's no progress, there's nothing changes, then after a while people will leave, basically. And this is what was actually, we were lucky with this as well, because as I told you about, okay, it has nothing to do with the chicken probably, but so we started working with Acquia, and it was actually a pretty, it was a bit risky when they decided to hire us for non-Drupal jobs, and we had up to that point we had worked only with Drupal, and then we started working with Ruby and Go and AWS and all those other technologies. But actually, that is why it was possible to keep many of our developers. So, for example, this guy, he's not very visible, but anyway, the guy right behind me. So we hired him 4 years. He was actually there when we started Chapters. He was just an intern for Drupal. It was just a summer job for him. And today he's a tech lead at Acquia in the product team of so in his product team he's a tech lead. And so this is the career opportunity that people need. So this is how you can retain the top talent. And yeah, okay. So once you become a CTO, what are the things? This is chapter 3. What are the things that you need to change? So you need a new mindset. You have to. I wish I had my speaker notes. So anyway, a new mindset is that. So actually, you have to zoom out. You have to see, and you have to look at the big picture. You're not a developer anymore. You're not writing code. So what your customers want from you is not code. They want, and actually, if you boil it down, they want you to make them money. They either help them to increase their revenue or decrease their costs, whichever. But that's what your customers want from you, and this is something that so you have to think at this level, and if this is not interesting to you, if this is not, I mean, if code is more important and more interesting, then probably you're not ready yet, or maybe you're not the right person to be a CTO. And also, a new mindset is, well, anyway, that's enough about mindset. Let's talk about skills. So you also need new skills. So as I said, I started learning new skills instead of improving my technical skills, and that is definitely something you will need to do. So you will need to, I don't know, learn about and improve yourself in negotiation and, I don't know, interviewing candidates and, I don't know, client interactions of all kinds. And so these are the things that you're going to need to do. And I was lucky, I mean, maybe not lucky, but maybe it's luck. So anyway, I was able to find joy in this. I was able to see the challenge that, okay, I'm so bad at this, and after a few weeks or months, I became so much better, and it was like, you know, when you're playing a computer game or video game and you level up and you're getting better and, you know, new experience and whatever. So that's how I was able to see it, and it kept me motivated, and I could get to that level when I was actually not that bad at all that anymore. So this is something, again, if you don't think you could enjoy this, you don't think you could find joy in that, then probably not being a CTO is not for you. And it's a new level. So actually, so there are, I don't know how to put this. Actually, there are downsides or cons of being a CTO. There are disadvantages or things that so the biggest one is being a CTO is you're at the top level. There's no one above you. All the pressure is on you. You make the high-level decisions, and all the high-level decisions, so you make all the high-level mistakes. And people below you, or so your employees, they're going to criticize you a lot. And sometimes they might not be right, but even that will be your fault because you did not inform them well. And so yeah, it's tough. And all that pressure, you cannot really even share that with anyone. I mean, even though we have more than 50 people now, nobody, I mean, my co-founder is there, so it's just the two of us. Everyone else is on a different level. So, and no matter how big the company will be, it will be always just the two of us. And actually, it's getting even worse. So as the company grows, the distance, the gap is growing as well. So this is tough. And even with him, with Peter, it's just, as I said, we are different. And of course, his role is different. His personal challenges are different. So even with him, there's not everything. I can't share everything. We will not see the same way many things. So being a CTO is a lonely job, really. So that is something that I don't know how I can't sugarcoat it. That is something, and I think this is the only thing that I could never look at as a challenge or as a, you know, I could never find joy in that. This was actually, I couldn't even get used to it. So this is something that you have to consider the most before you decide to be a CTO, that you're going to be on your own with this. And you can, of course, talk to other people, other CTOs in other companies, but their challenges will be different, their situations will be different. So, okay, so this is it. And now that I told a lot about why not to be a CTO, let me tell you how not to be a CTO. So this is the end of my story. So actually, at the end of last year, I stepped down as a CTO, and basically, actually, I just continued doing what I was doing, hiring hiring smarter people than I was, and so the last person was a CTO. So now Chappers is another CTO. I became totally unnecessary at the company. So now I came to the US and I'm starting here again from scratch. So yeah, thank you. This was my story, and let me know if you have any questions. Yes.
Hold on.
So when you started hiring, you had your own new company, you wanted to attract good talent towards your company. And at that time, anybody who was coming for an interview was kind of debating in his mind, in the back of his mind, thinking that why should I join a small startup like this compared to other companies who are paying more than what this guy can afford? And where does that guy see him in the near future working for you?
Yeah.
How did you cope up with that?
So actually, at the beginning, we were hiring only Drupal developers, and so it was, we started the company, actually there were other Drupal companies at that point, but none of them were working for US customers. We were the only ones. So if they wanted to work not for Hungarian customers, but for customers abroad, we were the only option. So that was our advantage compared to other compared to our competitors, and that's why people joined us. And of course, we tried to pay more, but it was not always possible. But yeah, so these, I don't know, people join, and I don't, maybe, we have, this is maybe something I haven't told much about, but we had this vision, even at, so as I told you, when I tried to hire people and they said that they wanted to see the company take off, I had this vision. I knew that I was going to do this, and I was so surprised. I was genuinely surprised that they didn't believe it, or they had doubts. And maybe later at interviews, I probably, so until we grew up above 20 people, I was doing all the interviews on my own, and maybe it is possible that I just had this vision in my mind, and I could just, you know, give it to them, and they liked it. I don't know. Maybe it was something else, but anyway, for some reason people started joining us, and after a while, when you really have good customers and you have a good team, then it's not hard anymore to hire good talent.
So what does somebody do, you know, if they are on the other side of the company, which means that if they are working in the other Drupal consulting firm where they do not have US projects, and you know they have internal projects or an internal product development company, and how do they attract talent from the market? Do they develop interns and let them dabble with the technology and come up, or do they? What is the way out?
So you're asking how other companies attract people?
Like, you know, you had an advantage where you had projects from US, the other company did not.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't really know how they could hire people. I mean, I had no idea what was attractive in those companies for potential developers or potential employees. We actually managed to hire people from who left those companies. So some people came over. Actually, after a while, it became a disadvantage as well. So, you know, when you're trying to be better and more, we demanded more from our developers. They had to speak good English, for example, and it was a bottleneck. And so. Yeah, so after a while, it was actually a bottleneck for us to hire people, and it was for some developers also a bottleneck. They did not join us. They didn't want to join us because they knew that they would have to work harder and you know, produce better quality and have higher standards than other companies. So that is maybe something that was attractive for some people in at other companies, that they didn't have to work that hard. But
Hi, you said that certain people in certain positions had to learn how to speak to the other clients in a way that they addressed that they wanted to make money. I just want to know, like, an example of that.
Yeah, basically it's just, so I was talking about once you become a CTO, then you are talking to customers on different level. You're not talking about coding anymore. You're talking about business values and I mean, how to create value for their businesses. And that's what they want to hear. And you probably you're not talking to someone who understands. They probably will not even know what Drupal is. They will not have any technical background. And then they just, all they want is just, you know, have a web shop, for example, so they can sell their products online and they can increase their revenue. So basically, it's your job in some cases to figure out what you can sell to them, what they need. And yes, of course, if you're, I mean, maybe this was something unique to my company, that we had no salespeople for that role, but yeah, I was doing most of this.
Thank you.
I have a question myself, Greg. Thank you for your presentation. When you talk about kind of the challenges of being 50 people and you and your co-founder were at the top in a sense, and maybe being a CTO is not for everybody. Have you some other ways that I've heard about this phrase is there can be a sort of a management track or a people track for people, moving into sort of the people management, the business management, and there can also be a technical track where people can sort of level up in a sense and being a technical lead in a company. Have you explored that at Cheppers, and have you had a success in sort of bringing people up in the team into like maybe in a sense more technical leadership roles, and not necessarily having to think that they have to move over into a management role?
Not really. Actually, I don't think, I'm not sure if we have anyone in the company right now who would be interested in a management role. Any of developers. It's possible, but I don't know. No, so that we try to keep the company the hierarchy, yes, flat. So we don't really. So we have the developers and so people working on projects, and we have a layer for the management and nothing in between. And as I mentioned, Acquia, we work with them, and in those cases sometimes we have Akos as a tech lead, but we had some guy, actually he's there right there. He used to be a scrum master in his team. So sometimes there are promotions there because Acquia is a lot bigger and they have more sophisticated hierarchy. So I think this is something that might be a challenge at one point, but this is not something that has been a problem in the future, in the past.
I have a follow-up, another question, if I may. More personally for you, you talked about reading a lot of books to kind of learn about management. Were there other resources that were helpful for you in that process? I've heard some other things. People talk about finding a mentor or somebody outside of maybe their organization who they can learn from.
Yes, actually, I went to it was yeah, so it was an outside. It wasn't right a mentor, but I went to it was kind of a course or course where they like a seminar and with some one-on-one consultation, and it went on like just a few occasions, and yeah. So anyway, yeah, I tried other things, and they helped.
Cool, thank you.
I have a question. Do you have any insights of how to make a company more diverse? Since that we've talked about diversity and you're a CTO, do you have any insights?
Okay, this is a very good question. I could have showed you. Yeah, this presentation was longer, and I had some slides I deleted in the last moment, so I had no picture about the team. But unfortunately, still to this day, Cheppers has around 10% female employees, and this is something I would love to change. Unfortunately, maybe this is something like a geographic thing that in Eastern Europe, it's still. I mean, there aren't many developers. We have actually one female developer, so that's it. And I think about during these 4 years, we interviewed hundreds of developers, and I don't know. I would say that less than 10% of them were women. So we actually hired more, like percentage-wise, more women than men. But there's just not enough people applying to our company, and unfortunately, we can hire women for other roles, so project managers and designers and those roles, and we usually do. So this is what all we can do. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a better answer. I wish I knew how to increase the diversity. And of course, I mean, if you also meant like skin color and these kind of things, in Eastern Europe, that's not that it's everyone's white. So yeah.
All right. Anyone else? That's that? All right, thank you very much. Woo! Yay! All right. So in a last-minute switch, for anyone who cheated and looked at the slides ahead of time, if somehow you had them in front of you, you'll notice that the date has changed since the meetup started. We're actually going to have the meetup next month on the second Wednesday of the month, July 12th. We felt that July 5th was probably, not a good idea in terms of attendance. So we're going to have it at July 12th. It will still be here in this room. You do still need to sign up on meetup.NYC, DrupalNYC.meetup, whatever. Meetup. Go to meetup.com, Drupal NYC, /Mani. If you would like to present, don't forget, please visit the Drupal.NYC/suggest or hit up one of the organizers, and we'll see what we can do. So yeah, next meetup, be there and bring 3 friends. Everybody has to bring 3 friends. Except Mani has to bring 4 friends. Okay. That's your birthday. Happy birthday, Scott. So, but on July 12th? Okay, so we will put a candle in one of the pizza pies, and we'll be great. Okay, downstairs, after party, Bill's Bar and Burger, 51st Street. You should go and socialize with people. Sponsored by our good friends at Fastly. I always do the upstairs bar, downstairs bar thing. If you don't see people at the upstairs bar, go to the downstairs bar. If you don't see people at the downstairs bar, go to the upstairs bar. Yes, and that's it. Yay! Woo! All right. Well done, everybody. Yay! It was literally made in the back corner about 15 minutes ago because I was flipping through the paper and I was like, July 5th. That's not a good idea. That's a bad idea. And I went over there and I'm like, what days do you have open? And that was the day they had open. So, yeah, having.